guys, today we're looking at a Nikon FM2. Now the FM2 is very similar to an FM, and I'll talk about the slight differences and leave links below to my review of the Nikon FM. There isn't a lot of difference, although this sort of is a special FM2. This one has a Sigma 28 to 70 millimeter zoom lens, f3.5 to f4.5. A very nice zoom lens, I must say. When these were new in 1982, they were about $400 if you ordered it with one of the more inexpensive lenses. And on eBay right now, they're selling between $350 and $400 for ones in good condition. This particular FM2 is not mine, it's my neighbor's. He got it at an estate sale, and it's really in like new condition. Whoever owned this used it very little and took excellent care of it and kept it well protected. It's really like new. It's in beautiful condition. These were made from 1982 to 1984. The FM2, like the FM, is one of the most reliable 35 millimeter single lens reflex. The FM series was a replacement for the Nikkor FT3, and it's an entirely new compact rugged copper aluminum alloy chassis that was then the backbone. There's a F series, an FM series that went from 1977 to 2006, 29 years. One of the differences between an FM and an FM2 is this came in two colors, black and chrome. I believe the FM only came in chrome. Also in 1980, the new version, the FM2, had a faster flash sync speed of 1/200th of a second. The old FM was only 1/125th of a second. And then halfway through production, or at the end of the year in 1984, the last version of the FM2, they increased the flash sync speed to 1/250th of a second, which is what this one has. So this is the best FM2 they ever made in terms of that. Also, the old FMs were 1/1000th of a second was the fastest shutter speed, and this is 1/4000th of a second. This has a center-weighted 60/40 ratio exposure metering system. Like the FM, titanium blade vertical focal plane shutter. The advantages of these FMs are that they're fully mechanical. There's a battery, but it's only used for the light meter, so you can take pictures whether there's a battery in it or not. There's LEDs in the viewfinder that signal the over and under exposure, and we'll have pictures of that in a bit. Here's a view in the viewfinder. The plus sign means it's overexposed by an f-stop or more. Notice also in the left side of the viewfinder, the shutter speed is 1/8th of a second. Here I'm at a 15th of a second, and I'm only slightly overexposed. Here I'm at a 30th of a second, and I'm slightly underexposed. And finally, here I'm at a 60th of a second, and I'm 1 f-stop or more overexposed. And here's a shot of the owner's manual explaining the over and underexposed settings, or what you see in the viewfinder. The top of the screen was completely black as I looked through the viewfinder until I finally shined a bright flashlight into the top where the f-stop is shown through the little window looking down at the Sigma lens. It has interchangeable focusing screens. It can accept a motor drive unit, the MD11 and MD12. The MD12 is the newer one and goes up to 3.2 frames per second. It has a hot shoe for Nikon speed lights, and it also accepts a data back, an MF16, which my neighbor also has one of those in the estate sale that'll be for sale. If we look at the front of the camera, here's the self timer, and everything works on this one. I'm at 60th of a second now. If I trip the self timer, I have to have it cocked. This is the depth of field preview button. You just pull it back towards the back of the camera to stop down the lens as you're looking through it for the increased view of your depth of field. This is the sync port for external flash. This is the button to release the lens. And now let me do that. Like all Nikons, you turn the lens clockwise to get it out, and you align the dot there with the dots on the side of the lens. In the case of the Sigma, it's a little white dot right there. The viewfinder can be interchanged, focusing screen rather, and there's a little clip here that you would clip on, and when you buy the replacement focusing screen, it comes with a special tweezers to click that open and then pull the focusing screen out. I don't want to touch it because this one's perfectly clean. It's like it's never been used, and I don't want to get it dirty. So once you open that, you just flip it down and it comes out. So let me put this lens back on. And like all Nikons, you turn it counterclockwise to lock the lens in place. On the camera back, we have the viewfinder, and there's a threaded lens on the back that you can change for your different settings for your different vision settings, plus and minus diopters. And then there's a memo holder, so there's not much to show on the back. When the battery's in it, and I've removed the battery from this one for now, but when the battery is in it and you open this lever and depress the shutter button halfway down, then it will light up the red lights on the right side of the viewfinder to show you whether you're correctly exposed, overexposed, or underexposed. On the camera bottom, let me reposition it this way. This is the mechanism for coupling the motor drive, the MD12. That little pin is an alignment pin, and it's also the shutter coupling pin for the motor drive. This button is to rewind the film, the rewind film lock. A standard 1/4-20 tripod socket. This is the access to the battery compartment, and it takes two standard LR44s. I put two in here and everything seems to work fine. And this is the electronic coupling for the motor drive unit. As we look at the top, this is the rewind knob with the flip out crank. It also pulls up to open the film back, but there's a lock so you can't accidentally lift that, so you can't lift it. So you have to pull this little lock back and then pull it up and snap it, and it opens the film back like that. Here's the film plane indicator. Here's the Nikon hot shoe. There's the frame counter, which is an automatic reset. So because I just closed the back right now, it's set to S for start. So you would put your lens cap on and take a few pictures until we get at number 1 right there. This is the shutter speed and the ASA or ISO setting dial, and you just lift it up and turn it. So right now I'll set it on 400 speed, which is in red, and you'll notice that the shutter speed, the sync speed is in red for 1/250th of a second, which was the feature of the newest FM2, this particular model. The shutter release button is threaded for cable releases, and this little lever is for double exposure if you want to do that. So if you had film in it and you took a picture and then you wanted to take another picture without advancing the film, you just pull back on this little lever while you advance it, and it doesn't actually cock the film then, but it does cock the shutter, and then you could take a double exposure or a triple exposure. And again, one of the features of this particular FM2 over the FM is it can go to 1/4000th of a second, which is too fast to see. I'm not sure I could even video it, but you know me, I might want to try. So if we look at the back of the camera, there's your titanium focal plane shutter, and here's 1/4000th of a second. pretty cool. While we're here, let's put some film in it. And again, whenever you put film in a camera, you want to make sure this is snug so that you can tell for sure when you wind it that the film is actually moving, and you can tell by the rewind knob going around. And of course, I should be covering that with the film cap, which is the standard Sigma cap that goes with that. And we're at number 1. To get the film back out, we just have to press this rewind release lever here and the crank, and we can crank our film back. And I don't want to crank it all the way back because I'm going to reuse this roll because it's only for test purposes anyhow. Again, there we go. Now let's talk about lenses. This camera, the fellow that had this camera had a set of Sigma lenses, and so this is the Sigma 70 to 28 millimeter zoom. There's the zoom range right there. This particular series of cameras cannot take the non-AI lenses. That's the non-auto indexing lenses, which were made from 1959 to 1977. So it takes newer lenses and, of course, third-party lenses that are compatible that were manufactured from 1977 on to, well, who knows how long. But the AI lenses came in 1977, the auto indexing, then the E series of Nikon lenses, and then the AI S series. And I have to warn you, I'm not an expert on Nikon lenses. I just read that off a chart, and I believe it. But if I was buying lenses for this, you have to be careful and see that they are truly compatible. This particular Sigma lens, the 28 to 70, is a f3.5 to f4.5, so it's a fairly fast lens for a zoom lens, and it focuses down to 1 meter. Let me get a second lens. This is another Sigma zoom. This particular one is from 70 millimeters to 210 millimeters, and this one zooms by pulling it out. And it's manual focus. Oh, well, I shouldn't say manual. It has electronic contacts, so on newer cameras that do automatic focusing and have those contacts, this would work on much newer Nikon cameras. But this particular old FM does not have electronic contacts to the lens, so you would always manual focus. And I'll say on both of these Sigma lenses, the focusing ring turns so easy, it's almost dangerously too easy. But it's certainly easy to focus, but it would also be easy to bump it. One of the characteristics of the Sigmas that I don't particularly like is you'll see the f-stops here are labeled, and they're very close to the camera. When you look through the viewfinder, there's a little window at the top that can the light from the f-stop can be seen through the viewfinder, but you almost can't see it looking down in there trying to set your f-stop. It's very hard to get at, whereas the Nikon lenses are much more obvious where you're setting the f-stop. At any rate, that's the other Sigma zoom lens. Also, this first zoom lens that's still on here, the 28 to 70, has this shield, which is interesting. You would think with the wide angle of 28 millimeter that probably you would get some vignetting in the corners, but in fact this lens hood works perfectly well with this one, and zoomed all the way back there is no vignetting at all. It's really a well-designed and very nice lens. And lastly, let me put one more lens on here. Here's a Samyang 18 to 28 millimeter zoom lens with a big Hoya filter on it, 72 millimeter filter. There's the lens hood, and this has this one zooms by rotating the barrel, and there's your focus ring. And this lens is, I don't know what the quality of this in taking pictures, but manufacturing wise, this focuses and turns beautifully. And this, again, this is an f4 to f22, and notice the coupling, that's for older Nikons. And also you'll notice there are no electronic feeds on this. It's for only the manual Nikons, or in other words, it can't do any auto focusing like the other two Sigma lenses. I think that's a beautiful combination on this camera with this particular wide angle lens, 18 to 28 millimeter. That's a beauty. We'll put the, I'll call it the kit lens, but of course it's not a kit lens, it's just the lens that came with it. In the estate sale. And there's the big lens hood. Now in the video, I'll leave links below to the my video of the Nikon FM, the previous model to this. And also there's a fellow named Nathan Jones who did a good review of an FM2, and DigitalCameraWorld did a good review of the FM2. And I'll leave links to both of those videos if you want more information on FM2s. I'll also have a link below where this item is located on eBay right now. But perhaps by the time this video is shown, it may already have been sold. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.